Now, the Auditor General annual report revealed that for the year ended June 2019, irregular expenditure increased by about 8.6 billion Rwandan francs from 5.6 billion Rwandan francs the previous year. Now, my colleague Stephen Muvunyi had a conversation with the Auditor General Obadiah Biraro, who shared more on these reports.
What stood out for us is the 220 billion that was involved in government contracts, government projects that for us we thought was not really bringing out, realizing the value for money that we should be looking for as at the time we are doing audit, as at 30th June 2019. We did not see the value for money realized out of the 220 billion that has been invested over time. Yeah.
Where do you attribute that? What went wrong?
That's a typical word, mismanagement. Okay, you start from procurement, budgeting for it, then procuring those goods and services. Is it a contractor? Is it the sale of goods or services? The whole process up to the realization of value was not properly done. And for us, the bottom line, we say this 220 billion is not realizing the value for money that the 190. 190 is people population, the Rwandans and whoever, that what was expected by government under Article 166 of the Constitution, what was expected is not what we saw. And we go to the extent of saying, we point out to certain amounts that can easily be said to have been lost or tending to getting lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You talked about the 220 billion, but there's also in your report the 8.6 billion that was mismanaged from 5.6 the previous year. So could you differentiate that for us?
Yeah, that's why I needed to refer to that report. There are two, actually it is as some people would like to call it wasteful expenditure. But for us, we say, okay, every money that goes out must be supported. If it is not supported, we say this is going to be wasted. If it is partially supported, it's going to be wasted. If it has been diverted, taken to objective Y instead of A, where it was destined to at the time of budgeting, we say it is wasted. If it has been spent for non-authorized reasons, we say this is wasteful. Those words originate from Article 166 of the Constitution, grouped as such. So there was one particular project here in Kigali where one of the budget agencies was actually, I would say, convinced to spend on, and yet it was not their primary objective. But they are associated with some powerful, maybe ministry, if I should say. I think they were influenced to spend that money to the tune of close to 2.5 billion. It's not that it is really lost, but we call it wasteful because that it should have been spent on those core business.
You talked about some of the decisions that are influenced by powerful people in the government. So what's being done about that? Do you think there are people who are too powerful to be held accountable?
No, not really. It should not be understood. You journalists, I know you. You like getting it easy. But what I mean is that the person who advised that other budget agent, government agent, meant well. However, we are saying, why didn't you get money from some other source, not this one? Because this money, as far as we are concerned, was destined for something that is a core business to this agency. But you caused this diversion. And because of this, it is likely to be wasteful expenditure. Yeah.
So in your report, there has been a decrease of the level of implementation of your recommendations by 5%, and we think that some of the government agencies are getting a disclaim of opinion for like 2 or 3 consecutive years. So what's being done about this? Where do you find a lasting solution?
If government has appended the word enterprise, it means you are business-like. In fact, you should make a profit, cash profit, plus profit in kind, because you are a public enterprise. Therefore, this particular organization that got a disclaimer, really what should be done to it, I told the Parliament that they should scale up their management, both in the content and attitude and management style, because really they are not up to the mark of their responsibility, given the government responsibility, government assets, the services that the population expects. So and the monies they handle requires better management than they have, than they practice. So what should be done is that they should scale up and match their managerial ability with the assets they have been entrusted with by government.
That means the government should be investing more in building capacity for these people, for the managers of these.
I don't know why people expect too much spoon feeding from government. If government has given you a job, they have given you these assets, okay? Then they give you a job to do. Why don't you do it? Why do you say, oh, government, please, you gave me a job, but you have to give me the spoon feeding of capacity building? No, you have a job, you are CEO, do the job of CEO. Yeah.
Another thing I just wanted you to talk about is the argument that big fishes are not being caught when it comes to prosecuting those who mismanage public funds. What do you say about that?
Well, for us in this office, we do not use the language of fish. Yes, I know you pick it from some English, maybe some journalistic language of big fish and small fish. For us, if you prefer to call them fish, we know they are fish. we do not go categorizing big fish and small fish. Why? We audit institutions set up in place by government, not individuals. That's why I know you journalists at times possibly you may not like our language. You would want me to have put a name, so and so. No, we don't go for individuals. We audit government establishments. And therefore, to me, there is no big fish, there is no small fish. Whoever mismanaged the government money is big enough. And therefore, I do not go for small and big and so on. We do not categorize that way because we look at the institution. And not the big man. Whoever is there, by the way, is big. Whoever is given that big money by government is big enough. So, to me, everybody is big as long as they are given that big money to manage. And by the way, I do not know what you people mean by. You have seen some people maybe dropped from their positions I'm never told why they are dropped. I don't know. But even condemnation, if your boss says, I do not like what you have done, which I know does happen, I don't see anyone who should be happy. But all in all, we do not use the language of big fish and small fish. It was raised in Parliament one time, and I told the MP who raised it, I said, look, this Auditor General's report is a hook. You know a fishing hook?
Yes, I do.
It is a fishing hook for you people to go fishing. If you choose to fish small or choose a fish big, I don't know. But the hook is here, go fishing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lastly, if you look at the time this institution has been into existence, are you satisfied with what has been done, or do you probably have a kind of frustration at the fact that we keep seeing public funds being mismanaged, those your recommendations not being implemented? Just tell us.
You know, the word frustration does not arise at all, because for us, Office of the Auditor General, and myself, the Auditor General, we do this job as a profession. We are not target workers. We do it as a profession, guided by patriotic resilience and standing out for professional resourcefulness, and therefore, there comes from the professional resourcefulness, there comes the passion to do it. And therefore, once we have that passion, underwritten by the patriotic resilience, how can we be frustrated? That is one. Number two, which is equally important, you see the outcome of what we do. We are motivated by what we see. And that motivation brings out our vigor that this goodness, this, you know, the immense achievements in the last 20 years should only be better. There cannot be negative by even one. There should not. And therefore, we put in that vigor. We always keep, you know, invigorated each year. And therefore, the word frustration cannot arise at all.